Everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So right now, the conversation is changing dynamics regarding the release date of Gotham Knights. I wanted to take advantage of that and speak regarding that particular possible release date and our demographics with Gotham Knights. Now, credit to Podcast Now. He's the one who's actually found or have received the information that somebody sent him. It was just basically a tweet from an account that had predicted a few things about Hogwarts Legacy accurately, saying that we might be getting Gotham Knights early summer. Now, in the Western Hemisphere calendar, early summer is somewhere around May. I think the end of May or middle of May, that's when we start seeing that. And I think for us here, we can basically say, okay, if Warner Brothers has any plans, it's possible that we'll see it. If you look at Lego, Skywalker Saga, it basically got its announcement and it'll be out in like the next 2 months. Now, that's not necessarily as big of a game as, say, Gotham Knights, but whenever it is they decide to make an announcement, I'm thinking 3 to 4 months out, we'll be receiving the game. They've done this before with Mortal Kombat in the DC space and, all of that. So we're not necessarily saying Warner Brothers, did I say the DC space? I meant the Warner Brothers space. So we're not necessarily saying that that's not something that's possible. It is very possible. They did it December 2018. They announced Mortal Kombat 11, April 2019. The game was fully released in that sense. So you think about it, you say, okay, there's probably room for that kind of release, but it will depend heavily on the announcement that comes next. Now, this takes us to the conversation about the demographics of Gotham Knights. If you look very carefully, in my opinion, many people have asked, why did they make a Gotham Knights game rather than just making another Batman game or even following up with the Damian Wayne game? I think it probably was a matter of maybe preference or maybe what the studio wanted to do. But again, if you kind of take a little deeper look into it, you'll find out that Gotham Knights is at an intersection between the demographics. A lot of people who enjoyed Batman, seeing that Batman was in everything, in media, in the books, in the graphic novels, everywhere. He's basically the main, item on the menu, basically, if you kind of think about it. And a lot of the other Gotham Knights had not necessarily been receiving a lot of attention. Yes, in the comics, they've been there, but it didn't show up till a few years after Batman had basically dominated that we started to see the Teen Titans and started to see all of the other young, superheroes. So I think the demographics of youngins that were watching all these cartoons, TV shows, and reading these comics, I think they actually have a stake in this in terms of the demographics. It's being designed for them to be able to enjoy their own heroes that they're somewhat used to, while those of us who were in the Batman sector, we just get to kind of say, well, this is something that is a Batman legacy game, so we get to kind of, participate. So they tried to make an intersectional game in a sense that, kind of crosses over both demographics in terms of somewhat older regarding Batman and somewhat younger regarding the Bat family in this case. If you notice, they haven't necessarily put in a lot of the, different older what we've seen nonetheless. They haven't necessarily put in too much of the older, villains and rogues, but I guess over the course of the game, we'll probably see what in the world it is that they're planning and what it is that they're doing. So this is a very interesting thing. Now, if you also consider it, the demographics, and when I say the demographics, I'm talking somewhere from 18 to 24 to 26 is, in my opinion, the core demographics of Gotham Knights. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And that demographics is the demographics that's usually in school, academics, or whatever it is. So if you were to think about it, like, this is somewhat of people that will be getting out of school in summer, if they were in high school or even maybe middle school or maybe even in college. And it sounds like a perfect time to have a game release for that demographic. If you get the game out in late May, you have the opportunity of having people even participate more in this game and be able to play the game. Now, yes, there'll be people going on vacation and all of that, which usually sees a lot of video games not get released or get any announcements around, or get any major releases in the summer. But at this stage, it doesn't really matter because it might be a matter of opportunity for the studio themselves. This is something that I mentioned, as the video started, is I don't think they necessarily planned this. I think this is just something that was just, out there, and perhaps the release date might just, in a sense, cross over with that timeline. Ideally, games like these will do better in terms of sales or in terms of exposure. Games like these usually do better in the fall But at this point, we've waited so long for this game. I don't think Warner Brothers really has too many options right now, because they also have Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League that's just building momentum also in the entire plethora of things. And I think it's actually something that, they have to really consider. So that date for May is sounding, or early summer, to me, is sounding very reasonable if the game is at some point ready. And the game, again, doesn't have the constraints of having to stick too closely with having to deal with just the next gen consoles. It's coming out for PS4 and Xbox One, so it really does have a wider audience that's already available that will play the game. So it seems like things are lining up, but nonetheless, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Peace out.